Somalia's president, who is calling for a, quote, better way to bring home refugees from his country. That comes as Kenya insists it will go ahead with its plan to close the world's largest refugee camp, Dadaab. Somali President Hassan Sheikh Mohamed told international media that any forced repatriations won't be in the best interests of either country. The president says the only way forward would be sending Somalis back home first in an orderly manner and second, according to international law. He said Somalia remains grateful for Kenya's help in housing the refugees and said while the country remains committed to bring its people home, the process takes time. Some Somalis have lived as refugees in Kenya for decades. Let's get you more on that story now. I'm joined live from Mogadishu by CCTV's Abdulaziz Bila. Also joining me live is CCTV's Catherine Ogunde. She's in Dadaab. Abdulaziz, let's start with you. What more can you tell us about Somalia's president and his stance on the planned closures of refugee camps here in Kenya?
Well, Padina, according to the Somalis here we've talked to and according to authorities in Mogadishu, the news by Kenya of closing the refugee camp at Dadaab, home to more than 300,000 Somalis, has not been welcomed here at all. Now, what the Somali President Hassan Sheikh Mohamed is saying is that 300,000 refugees is such a huge number of refugees to be brought in to Somalia at one given time, because Kenya is insisting that it will close the camp by the end of the year. So the President, for one, is acknowledging the challenges facing Kenya in terms of hosting such a huge number of refugees, in the sense that Kenya has bear the brunt of Somalia's civil war, hosting almost 1 million Somali refugees for almost a quarter a century. So the President says he's grateful for Kenya for all that it has accorded its nationals who are fleeing the conflict back home here in Somalia, but is saying that the process should be done in an orderly manner, because it's not in the best interest of either country to return back such a huge number of Somalis. What it is, the President is also saying is that the process by UNHCR and Kenya and Somalia, there's a tripartite agreement that ensures that the refugees will be brought back home to Somalia in the couple of years to come, but that the refugees should not be returned at one given time. He's citing the same security conditions that were being experienced here in Somalia as some of the challenges facing his government in able to create camps that can be able to bring back the refugees back to Somalia. So he's saying that they are noting the challenges that Kenya is facing, but Kenya should respect the international obligation since it's a member, and it should protect the rights of the refugees and not bring them back at one given time.
Right, Catherine, let me come to you, because you've been spending some time there in Dadaab. What do Somalis there think about their prospects of returning home?
Well, a lot of them feel that it's too much for them. We do have those who did take part in voluntary repatriation that started in 2013, and they did go back, but we did meet a few families that actually came back because they said that it was too insecure for them, and they couldn't live in such conditions, so they had to make their way back. So they feel that the security situation does not help, and the fact that they cannot live there means that the government, or the Kenyan government, should at least host them for a little while longer until Somalia stabilizes. But then on the other hand, you have some people who are willing to go back because they say that life in the camp is a little difficult. We have food rationings, we have, health systems that are kind of breaking down. So they say that maybe they're better off being in their own country and being on their own land so that they can farm and they can live a normal life, Penina.
All right, so Abdulaziz, it's likely all these Somali refugees in Dadaab will end up in the camps around Mogadishu. What's the situation there? Can those camps take in so many people?
Well, Penina, to be honest, the situation here in the capital, Mogadishu, is kind of complicated because, for one, the capital, Mogadishu, and many other cities in south and central Somalia is already home to thousands of internally displaced persons here in the country. Now, the United Nations estimates that almost 1 million people are internally displaced in the country. Now, some of them are here in the capital, Mogadishu, some of them in other major cities of Somalia. But these IDPs, they've been living in these camps since 2010 during the Great Somali Famine that killed almost 250,000 Somalis. So authorities here in Mogadishu are not able to put up a mechanism in place to relocate the IDPs who have been living in the camps here for almost 4 years. So it will be a bit challenging for them to accommodate 300,000 refugees from Kenya to come and live here in camps here around the capital, Mogadishu. There were talks that relocation camps will be built and along the borders with Kenya, but insecurity and instability along the border with Kenya and the Al-Shabaab deadly attacks along the border also has become a major worry and major concern for Somalia, the United Nations, who are not able yet to bring in the IDPs, let alone the refugees. So it's a bit challenging at this stage for now.
All right, so Catherine, we understand you've also been speaking to local representatives and health workers about the challenges of moving so many people back to Somalia. What can you tell us about that?
Well, the representatives feel that it's a bit unfair that the government didn't include them when it came to looking at the areas that were pacified by the Kenya Defense Forces in southern Somalia. They say that in as much as these areas might be pacified, they don't have facilities. So people are going back to nothing. They're going back to no school. They're going back to no health facilities. So you have women, you have expectant mothers, you have children who need these health facilities, who need health assistance, and they won't be able to get that. So if you move such a large number of people who are mainly women and children, you have a situation where they do not have access to healthcare. And that was their main concern, access to healthcare. As much as they can go back home, but what will happen after that? Penina.
All right. Catherine Nugunda, live for us in Dadaab. Abdulaziz Bilo in Mogadishu. Thank you both for joining us.